Welcome to This Multidisciplinary Life, a podcast where we explore the nuances and uniqueness of multidisciplinary teams across the world. Each episode, I'll be chatting with experts who are involved in and leading multidisciplinary teams. I want to understand what makes these teams so special to build and be a part of. Research from Harvard Business Review tells us that multidisciplinary teams outperform homogenous teams. I want to understand how and why this is the case. My guest today is Amber O'Meara. Amber is Head of Innovation at Australia's largest law firm, MinterEllison. She works across the firm bringing purpose, people and technology and non-technology innovations together. Amber, welcome. I'm so excited that we're having this conversation today.
It's great to be here, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So before we talk about multidisciplinary life at MinterEllison, I want to talk briefly about your multidisciplinary background. I understand that you hold a master's in marketing.
I do.
And you started your career in law as a marketing grad.
I did.
So since that time, I also understand you've held senior roles in client relationship management, marketing and communication. And now you're in innovation, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So these are all roles that require skills in marketing. They require skills in client experience, a lot of strong communication and influence too.
Yeah.
As well as understanding how the legal profession operates, both within a firm and the lawyer-client experience.
Yeah.
How have you found your multidisciplinary background has helped you be a better leader in this space? What's that been like for you?
I hope you don't mind me going on a bit of a journey.
Go
Sarah,
for it.
We love that. I think, I've been at Minters for 7 years and sort of started in my sort of home square experience space of marketing, BD, communications. And when the innovation role was sort of advertised to the firm, I remember going out and speaking to a few of my connections within the firm. And I guess when you're in BD and marketing and comms roles, that becomes your superpower, the connector piece, about how my skill sets could sort of then leapfrog into the innovation world. And it was really interesting talking to people across the firm, sort of going, oh my gosh, of course they would, because, there's the influencing piece, there's the connecting people piece, there's the understanding how the ideas that sort of very technical people or lawyers or consultants are bringing together need to have someone with that client lens behind them. So I think for me, it was really about being able to sort of transition into this role and look at this sort of my career as a multidisciplinary one was really centred around really listening to the people across the firm that lent into innovation and seeing how my skill sets could really play out there, I guess is my long-winded way of saying that.
I love it. I love it. And it's interesting because within a multidisciplinary approach, connection is so important. And so as you described, like being a connector is a really valuable skill.
Yeah. My favourite thing to say when, you're interviewing people or you're having coffees and people, ask you what you do, because it's very sort of esoteric in many ways, innovation in a law firm. My main sort of point is that connector of dots, the more you sort of get to know a firm, and especially a firm like Minters, which has an enormous breadth of resource in terms of amazing lawyers, amazing consultants and amazing people across business operations, the more that you sort of understand those pieces and resources and capabilities at your fingertips, I guess the better it is to sort of connect in those people. So I think, I describe myself as a connector of dots all the time, because if I'm listening to one person sort of speak about some of their tensions or pain points in their role, I'm more often than not think, oh gosh, X was telling me about blah the other day and that's exactly what you're describing, so you should go and have a conversation there.
So let's dive into multidisciplinary life at MinterEllison. And I'm keen to start to paint a picture of what life is like within multidisciplinary teams at the firm.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking of is if we can talk about it from a strategic perspective first and then perhaps from a leadership perspective. What does this look like?
Yeah, so that's a great question and one that I love because at Minters we are a purpose-led organisation and we revisited that purpose probably 2 years ago now. We sort of had a overarching purpose statement and 5 values, and we've really stripped that back to a purpose statement, and then 3 values, which are excellence, curious, and collaboration.
Love it.
Which I, as an innovation person, feel like were made for my role.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the excellence and the innovation definitely play into multidisciplinary, but the collaboration piece, the sort of underlying ambition to that is that we solve our clients' complex problems using multidisciplinary teams. And I guess that's a sort of quick way of saying that, we're at our best when we use the best across Minters, and we're at our best when we bring the best people into projects with the right capabilities and skills to bring them together. And I know it might sound like I've drunk the Kool-Aid a little bit, but I genuinely feel like since that sort of purpose shift happened to concentrate on those 3 core sort of values and ambitions, it really has filtered down across the firm in terms of understanding the resources at people's fingertips to be able to get the right project teams off the ground. So from a strategic point, I think our executive leadership team, CEO, have been excellent at always linking back what we're doing to those values and what they mean. And then from a leadership perspective, I think it's made our jobs a lot easier, I think, in a way, because when you're sort of asking people to be involved on teams in your projects, so you might be going out to a variety of different teams across our legal consulting or biz ops, we can always link it back to that strategic goal. We're not just doing things for the sake of doing things. It's given us a sort of anchor point to be able to influence people to join projects or help them to understand why it matters for them to be involved in those projects.
It also sounds like it would help someone make a decision when they're at a point of, do I lean towards more of a homogenous team makeup for this particular problem, or do I lean towards a multidisciplinary approach? And if it's coming from that purpose and leadership straight away, it sounds like it guides the decision-making for team members as well.
100%. And I think it also gives people the permission to sort of go, well, I don't think I'm the right person, but I might endorse someone else in. So it kind of creates that culture of endorsing people in and different skill sets in that we might not have thought about for particular things as well. Yeah, I think it's just a really good anchor point to have the strategic leadership lens and then be able to sort of, anchor that into everything we do in terms of projects.
Yeah, fascinating. And you mentioned curiosity and collaboration within those values. And bringing people together and referring others and making that connection. How has that impacted the culture where oftentimes we've seen in the legal profession that sometimes, people do feel like they need to know the answer. And it's really hard to say, I don't know. And it sounds like Minters is really pushing a different approach in that with looking at other types of professions in the business and how that all comes together day to day.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to have all the answers. Isn't that a nice thing to think about?
So refreshing.
I think it just creates almost a comfort for people, especially if ideas can come across in terms of projects that sort of go to fruition and we put these multidisciplinary teams around. They might start with lawyers, they might start with consultants, they might start with biz ops people. And I think that, it takes away some of that overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, I've got to pull this team together and what if it doesn't work and it might take too long or whatever it looks like. I think it creates sort of a comfort of, if that person comes in and says, this is my idea, that there's then a group around them that can go, oh, great, well, we need to get learning and development involved in that piece, and we need to have someone from our clients and markets groups involved, and we need to have someone from our technical side involved and sort of get people together. And that changes too as projects move on. And I think about a project that I'm on, which is ongoing, our Digital Academy program. So at the beginning of that, it was really bringing and implementing that project and moving that to life. And started with sort of our IT team and our Chief Digital Officer and our Learning and Development team and our IT Operations team and me to sort of build out what that program looks like. And now as we're sort of really getting the groove in terms of what the Digital Academy means and the types of courses, different people are coming in and out. So now we have sort of legal ops in because they've got such great overview of what our lawyers, consultants are needing in terms of their training. So things move as well. We might start as one team and then shift as the dynamics change as well.
Can we explore the Digital Academy a bit more? Because it sounds like a really interesting project to be working on.
Yeah.
Where did that? I've got lots of questions for you, but where did that come from initially? What started it? What sparked the idea?
Again, the strategic direction of the firm. So one of the ambitions underlying sort of curiosity and excellence and collaboration as well, but kind of the curiosity piece is the understanding that we need to build the digital fluency of our people in a point in time where technology is so rampant and can be used in many different ways in law and will continue to evolve at a rapid pace, and it is like drinking from a fire hydrant at the moment in terms of the information. We didn't want our people to feel that, we didn't want them to think, oh my God, I've got to go out and do 7,000 Google courses and learn everything about Gen AI as an example. We really wanted to curate a program that just helped give them sort of step-by-step ways of getting to know different technologies, which evolves as well. So some of the programs are nice, quick, short courses, and then people can also sort of do micro-credentials and earn a badge for them. So we have those in Copilot as an example or generative AI as an example, but it just provides our guys with a way to learn about different things. It's self-paced. It has a reward piece in it. We developed our own internal cryptocurrency called Mintcoin, which they receive every time they do a course. So it was just sort of taking a step back and being able to curate something that our people would find palatable, easy to digest. They got the reward and recognition, but that needed a team in place, a multidisciplinary team to understand all the different facets of how to build that type of program.
Yep. And so did that team come together specifically for that project and then disbanded, or how have they worked together?
So the team came together to start that program. So it initially started with a speaking digital with our clients module, just to give our partners, and then it cascaded down to everyone at the firm. A really, really nice, quick, I think it was maybe an hour, and you could do it in 15 modules on 4 emerging techs or technology that will affect our industry. And it was beautifully done with a group, with us and a group called Best at Digital. So it started with that and then has expanded. We've done this one. People have really enjoyed it. How do we keep sort of feeding that curiosity in a way that's sort of, as I say, self-paced, easy. They can do it in their own time. And it's evolved from there. And then it's sort of has had offshoots as well. So we've had the Mintcoin project, which has come off the back of that. And again, that was, an idea that was raised during that speaking digital idea. At the end of each module, the Best at Digital guys kind of said, oh, well, you could do this. But there wasn't sort of a way in place that we could. So we thought, actually, we could do this. So there was a group of us that went away and talked to, he was a VCE student at the time. Who builds, things like this. But he helped us build Mintcoin. It's internal. It doesn't have any sort of external value use, but it's housed on the Solana app, so people can download that. It has its own token and design, and that rewards everything that happens through Digital Academy. So that was one offshoot of that Digital Academy that worked on that project. And then since Digital Academy had been launched, we've also done our dedicated Gen AI time, which was a 3-month program to really help give people the experience and education around how they could use generative AI, which was a mix of sort of the online self-paced learning, live sessions, podcasts, like all sorts of different things that were curated every week to take to people over those 12 weeks, which were fee-credited hours as well for our client-facing professionals. Yeah. So it started as sort of a group of us thinking about that digital fluency piece and how we can help to achieve that ambition of having a really digitally fluent firm. And then it's sort of just morphed into lots of sort of smaller projects with that core team in place.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds really interesting using Mintcoin to gamify some of the learning process.
People love the Mintcoin.
Yeah. And so what can you do with the Mintcoin out of interest?
So you earn it. So different courses might be worth different points, and when we've got really important campaigns like the dedicated Gen AI time, we boost the points, like you might see in your Woolies rewards card.
Oh, yep.
We boost them so that people can earn more. So what people do is they earn them, and they can either trade them in, and it's all traded in for Prezi vouchers. So they scan the coins back into us, and then we can do that. So it's all Prezi vouchers, but people are smart. They either just quick win. It might be $5 that they can give their kids to go and do something, or people, might trade it in at Chrissy to help with their Chrissy present buying.
How nice.
Yeah. It's just a nice, easy, instantaneous way to reward people.
Yeah. And out of interest, if you didn't have a multidisciplinary approach at Minters, and you wanted and needed to build the Digital Academy, is there an alternative path that you think you could have gone down with a similar result?
It would have taken a long time, I think. I think when you've got a team that sort of sits across multiple parts of a business, because as you would know in law firms and big corporates generally, it's not always just a matter of we're doing this and this, what happens. We want to make sure we have L&D involved, because talent's such an important part of the Digital Academy. So making sure that everyone that needs to be involved in is involved there. So I think it's we just can't make things happen unless we have the right people in place. And I think if we were to just say have me and maybe our IT person and maybe one of the technical people, we could have just been bumbling around doing lots of different things that may not have had the right impact and would have taken so much longer. Like as an example from when the Digital Academy program sort of team was put in place, it was maybe 3 months till we launched the first sort of iteration of what that looked like. A month later, we'd launched Mintcoin. I think that a project like that, if you didn't have the right people sort of moving it along internally, including having, Gary as our sort of lean into the executive committee too as the chief digital officer, I think it just would take a lot longer, and I'm not sure it would be as impactful if I'm honest, not having the right pieces together or having two people just,
chipping away.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I can imagine you would know that you've got knowledge gaps, but you wouldn't have the people in place to be able to ask the questions or raise different questions that you may not even think of.
Exactly. And even outside of the capability that we have internally, for something like the dedicated Gen AI time project, we really all lent into our networks too. I think there's so many, I think about like Terry Morter said at the Centre for Legal Innovation. We sort of lent into different people to provide us with content or use the great content that they have in their libraries as well. So I think the power of that group too was able to then also think about which networks externally we could use that could boost that program to make it even better, because we don't want to be in an echo chamber of everything we think's great. It's really important to have that external view too and the client view.
Absolutely. And what's the feedback been like from the team on the Digital Academy?
Really good. I think overall really, really good. I think people appreciate the way that it's sort of set up. It's nice and easy. Our wonderful learning and development team have set it up so that it records CPD points, so it makes it very easy for people to sort of do it, and then, at that rush in March, as you would know too well, to get the CPD points in place, it's nice and easy. The dedicated Gen AI time has been, really, really, really well received, I think, at the end of that. And it's probably very nerdy that I have these numbers off the top of my head, but we had 1,669 people do 4,169 modules and recorded 3,319 hours. So I think
fantastic.
It's huge numbers. Obviously, the fee credit and having our executive and board sign off on that is a huge investment. But that, I don't think that was probably one of the most successful sort of learning programs we've had in a long time.
How interesting.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah.
So, Amber, I'm conscious we're talking a lot about having the right people involved and being able to connect people together in these teams and elicit good questions and all their expertise. It's wonderful when it works really well.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard when it's not quite right, or there's creative abrasion happening.
Yeah.
How have you overcome some of those challenges? What are, whether it's signals or a particular gnarly problem, how have you worked through that with people?
Yeah, I think a fail fast mentality and to learn from that is probably something I've learnt moving into the innovation space, definitely.
Yep.
I think coming from a clients and markets background, if you're thinking about a campaign and all the ways that sort of needs to get out to clients and the things we need to think about and the clients we need to think about, there's often probably a lot of time spent sort of maybe being too tenacious on things that we could have moved quicker on. And I think when I have that tenaciousness in me, like I've got to make this work, I've invested this time, I don't want it to all mean nothing. Moving into this space with a team that moves really quickly away from things that just are not going to work, I have sort of like failing fast and just learning from it and sharing that experiences with others is the best way, I think, to sort of create that safe space of just people not feeling bad if things don't happen.
Yep.
Lawyers, consultants, everyone that works in big firms are highly ambitious, and failure is not a word that like lots of people want to hear about.
No.
But it's okay to do that. I think it's better to sort of say, look, this isn't going to work now. It might be just parking it. It might work better at a different point in time. But being able to park it and divert attentions to things that are going to have greater return on investment, I think, is really, really important. I think also just owning it. I think, not everything will work. And, I think grass is greener just as hard to mow as well in lots of things. You often get lots of people saying, oh, but so-and-so has this technology and this, why can't we do this? And I think that, the role of being able to get people to understand what the sort of firm priorities are and why things might work or things that we've tried in the past, to share that sort of experience of failure in a lot of ways is a good thing in terms of projects that might not get off the ground. This is going to sound really, and I'm not just saying this, but I'm literally struggling to think of a project, at least in the last year at Minters, where I've had that, where I've had creative tensions or things just haven't worked in a way that I thought they would. And I think that is because we've got teams that are consistent, and then like lots of learnings that are happening because the firm's doing a lot at a fast pace. So I think it's hard for me to pinpoint something over the last year, but even just in terms of our innovation champion group or the people that I work with, often there's things that come into our groups that seem easy but aren't. And it's sort of, I guess it's sort of getting people to understand that things aren't always just a quick fix. Sometimes they are, and sometimes we'll have things at our fingertips, but other times they are going to take a little bit longer exploration. And at a certain point in time, that might be where we divert our attention, but at this point it's not the right way to use our time. So I think it's just the open and honest conversations, I think, that really that are really helping and that we're getting better at, I think, as a firm too, because the natural instinct for people is to be helpful, because that's the kind of people we are, especially with multidisciplinary teams. But I think being helpful is also having those honest conversations around where things might work and where they fit in the sort of priority line of things. That makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And that honest conversation piece is hard at times, because I think people, and as we talk about failure, we don't like to be uncomfortable as humans.
Yeah.
We will do anything to not be uncomfortable as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so how do you encourage that sense of safety within the team to have those conversations?
Yeah. Ongoing, I think. I'm just very think it's about sort of it's interesting, the whole technology piece, but I think at the heart of everything we're doing, it comes so much empathy, and humans need to be at the centre of all that we're doing. And I think it is coming into things with that empathetic lens and understanding where people are coming from and what frustrations are or what they're wanting to achieve. I think at all points, the empathy piece is front and centre for us, and something that we talk a lot about at Minters to create that sense of safety. And I think it's also, as leaders across, if I think about our digital team, we're really honest about our capabilities and what we can do. You have a lot of people sort of coming to you and saying, oh, I don't understand enough about this. Neither do we a lot of the time, especially something like Gen AI or that particular technology that's changing so rapidly. The tech companies are learning as they go. We're all learning as we go. So I think it's creating that safe space that people just feel comfortable to ask the questions rather than just put it all in the too hard basket and I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to seem silly. I think we've created sort of a culture where that curiosity and innovative spirit is able to thrive without people feeling that, they're going to be sort of shot down if their ideas aren't good or aren't aligned to different things. So I think that's probably the best way to describe how we try and cultivate that kind of safe space for people to A, have the conversations transparently together about things, and then B, to just create that curiosity and what all of our programs look like.
And what's it been like for, I'm guessing there's also client feedback that this is a multidisciplinary approach is a good thing to be doing within the firm. And it is not only bringing a good return for the firm, but also giving clients a really great experience or a really different experience. Yeah. Have you got much feedback on that from clients as well to know that it's working, to know that it gives them something?
I think a lot of that, I think a lot of that just happens by its nature in the back end of things. If I think about, matters that occur that might need a technology piece to it, they might need some of our consulting people on it. Those conversations that happen with clients about the ways in which they can use different capabilities at Minters, which are unique and different to us, which is always well received with the conversation. I think we really want to breed that sort of culture of client first. So within digital, we have a mantra or a team motto or theme.
Love
that our Chief Digital Officer put in place that which is called the PCP. So that's productivity, client experience, and our people value proposition. So everything that we look at has to sort of enhance one of those three things. Obviously love going out and having those conversations with clients and sharing what we're doing and hearing back from them about how the different things that we're doing could help. A lot of those conversations are often around our consulting experience or the technology we use, but more and more conversations around things like how we're building digital fluency and those more sort of people-focused things, which has been really great. Yep. They're at the core of everything we do. I think it's we don't do anything in isolation. We don't do anything without understanding that client voice. And often that's not sort of that comes from many places. It comes from our client listening feedback. It comes from, just conversations that happen in the hallway that people have heard. Yes, we have conversations directly, but it's all the indirect client feedback that we get as well that we sort of embed across projects and the work that we do as well.
Super valuable and helpful for the team as well.
Yeah. And I think it's, don't want to spend time doing something that isn't going to then have a positive return on clients or our people.
Yeah, absolutely. Amber, there was a new piece of work that you briefly mentioned to me earlier on, which was around a diagnostic. Yes. Is that something that you want to talk about? I'm curious to understand more.
Yeah, I think for us we've so the innovation community. So we have a group of innovation leaders and champions at MinterEllison, and it's nearly 90 people in that group.
Wow!
Across each of our business units, consulting, legal, and biz ops, or business operations. So that has been in place for nearly 2.5 years now. And I think we sort of started at a juncture and then ChatGPT came into the forefront, and then it's kind of gone off into a stratosphere. And in many ways, I'm very thankful for that emergence of generative AI technology, because it sparked a curiosity that I just don't think any other sort of tech, non-tech could have ever in people. Yeah. So I ride that wave and that momentum. But it's really getting to the core of how that community can play the better role within the firm, and they're doing an amazing job. I guess it's enhancing their role within the firm to play that true innovation champion. So, being able to explain back to the groups the different things that are happening across the firm, being able to ignite that curiosity for people to think about the way that we can do different things or do things differently, working with fusion teams to bring things to life, really just getting a sense of what are the trigger points for them, what they think the client angle is to that. A really big sort of research piece into just understanding how we can recognise that role better, but also enhance it across the firm and create. It's almost a teach the teacher, create those people that then just further infiltrate that cultural piece across the firm. So a really amazing piece of work being done with Molly Tregellis, who's a friend of both of us.
Wonderful.
Sarah,
love Molly.
who is, the master at a diagnostic. And the hope will be that there's some really juicy data that we can use for a number of projects that happen across the firm. So I think for me in innovation and for us in innovation, this isn't a big sort of bells and whistles. This is innovation, here we are. Innovation just needs to be a part of everything we do every day. So making sure that those data points and the feedback that we receive through those diagnostics is then sort of implemented across all the firm programs that are happening. And that's anything from solutions development, product development, right through to some of the programs that we run for different cohorts. We have a senior associate cohort program, we have a future partners program. So any sort of data that we're giving, we just make sure that it is always put into the big projects across the firm so that, we're not just sort of creating things in a vacuum.
Yeah. But actually connecting the dots between different pieces of research and information.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for people, an example might be some of our innovation champions are also champions for a big piece of tech that we're trialling at the moment at Minters. It gives them the sense of, this is, making a huge difference, and it's impacting the work that I do. It's impacting the work that my team's doing. It's impacting the way that I can do things for clients. So I think it's just finding those connection points for those wonderful champions to be able to see the value. Yeah. And I think Simon had provided feedback recently that it was it's really quite remarkable that a law firm has this capability internally to be able to sort of tap into.
It's impressive and encouraging, I think, for the legal profession in the future.
Yeah, and a long time being at Minters. I think this that sort of team was set up, almost 10 years ago now, with legal operations and other groups that can help support lawyers to just do things differently and do things quicker, do things more productively,
and continue to evolve as well.
Yeah. Well, as we say, who knows what kind of roles might exist?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Lots that we don't even know how to label yet.
Exactly. Yeah, which is great. It's a really exciting thing.
Amber, thank you so much. You have been incredibly generous with your insights.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. It's been great.
Wonderful. Thank you. That wraps up our episode of This Multidisciplinary Life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a thumbs up, a like, you know the drill, and subscribe for more episodes. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show to share your multidisciplinary life, you can get in touch with us through the links in the show notes. This podcast was recorded on Wurundjeri land and brought to you by Sarah El-Atm, researcher, consultant and speaker on multidisciplinary teams. It is created in collaboration with Balloon Tree Productions and marketing expertise from August, with special mentions to Daniel Bannock, Andrew O'Keefe, Mike McCusker, Nina Wan and Stefan Mbisi. This multidisciplinary life wouldn't be possible without the support from the wonderful guests who share their stories and perspectives.